Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Sasha Rainbow, director of Grafted, which is coming to Shudder January 24th. Very cool to have you here.
So good to be here.
Yes, and I know it's very early in the year, but this is on my list for favorite movies of the year so far. I
Wow,
I
thank
really
you very
enjoyed it
much.
quite a bit. You're very welcome. And I'm not just saying that because you're here, but so for for people not aware, could you give them an idea of what Grafted is about?
Oh, okay. It's about a young Chinese girl who gets a scholarship to New Zealand, who's arrives and is desperate to fit in, and she ends up using her science lab experience to let's just say assume the identities of um, uh, the people she covets. Let's just say one bloody body at a time. It's a coming of age that is really kind of like a psycho Barbie Mean Girls face off madness.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think enough is said. It's also a mad scientist movie, which I'm a big fan of. You don't see too many anymore.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So your directorial debut for a feature film. You made shorts before, and I don't think they were horror. I think they were like documentary. So are you a horror movie fan?
I am. But the little secret is that like when I was a kid, I got really obsessed with The Ring, to the point where like I saw it at the movies and I loved it so much that I remember going back to my friend's house and we got the Japanese version out and we watched it on VHS tape and like loved it so much that I went back to the movies to watch the American Ring again. And I left and I was freaked out. I had to move the TV out of my bedroom. I couldn't look at televisions going off because I was just like imagining the hands and the
Right.
hair of the woman coming out of the screen. And so I stopped watching scary films for a long time. And then I was like, you know what? I got to do something about this. I got to make a horror movie. It's the only way that I can
It's like
fully,
therapy.
it's like therapy, right? So yeah, that was a big part of my journey is just the catharsis of like going into the dark side of humanity again and facing it.
Well, that's pretty wild because the movie, there's a lot of horror in the movie because, so obviously there's really big themes in the movie. Actually, along those lines, what's that like to like balance the movie? Because obviously there's messages, there's themes, but it's also a horror movie, and so you don't, you want it to play as a horror movie. Is there a balance there? Is that ever hard to find the balance?
I think that any good film, it's like you want to be connected to the character's journey. And
Yeah,
then sort of like a good piece of music, like Nirvana played by an orchestra is amazing. You can also play Nirvana as jazz,
yeah.
like if the core is there, the genre really is it's the flavor. But I will say that for this particular film, body horror was imbued in the thematics. This is about, not feeling good in your own body, like trying to fit in, looking at other people that seem to have everything you don't and wanting it, and body horror is like perfect to explore that. So in that way, it's not just plonked on, it like
Yeah, it's
adds
definitely
to
it's doesn't nothing shoehorned in like, oh, we're trying to tell you whatever. It's organic to the story and the genre that you're making it in.
exactly.
So, well, first of all, body horror, is that something you're interested in? I know you shot away from horror for a while after seeing The Ring. So is body horror something that interests you?
I mean, I love the power of filmmaking to like to feel what you're seeing. And I think body horror is like one of the best genres to take the audience on that journey. And I think that, body horror is going through this new wave. And I
Oh yeah.
think there's so many new things we could explore. And you even see it coming out in like TV shows and stuff now, where it's like a detective film or something, but they'll actually have these kind of body horror moments in it that they wouldn't have normally gone into such detail in. So it's starting to kind of, I think, creep into sort of mainstream filmmaking in a weird way.
Yeah.
But I think that we can go further, and I think there's more things we can talk about using body horror because, it's the one thing we all experience is living in a weird ass body.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a universal human experience. Whatever's going on with your body,
And
from
whatever country you live in.
whatever your country you live in, yeah, whatever physical ailments you have, we're stuck in it.
Yeah.
So I think it's only the beginning.
Also, when you said about sneaking into like mainstream, I think all around the board, like movies have become a lot more graphic and TV shows, and it's more acceptable today. I don't know if it. I used to think people thought like you had to shy away from anything too graphic because it would turn audiences off, and I don't know if people just like it better or that was just what people thought, and it just people like what they're gonna like. I don't know, but you see a lot
Yeah.
more graphic stuff.
Yeah, and I think the audience wants it. I think the audience like there's a truthfulness to it. Like if you cut, you bleed, and it's like that almost kind of like adds this layer of truthfulness to what can otherwise be, like classical rigid kind of drama. And yeah, I think the audience, I think we like it. We're not afraid anymore.
Yeah. I also like the use of sound effects always adds a lot. And you have some great gooey sound effects when things are close up being cut. And that really elevates the body horror while you're watching it.
I mean, you can't make a horror film without sound effects. Let's just say that it's like up there. It's in the top three, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I think also just that idea of, the imagination does a lot of work. What was it, Hitchcock who said, like what's in the darkness? Like, don't worry, the audience will imagine something more horrific than you could ever put on the screen. And I think sound is actually a huge part of that. You can not show something, but have the right sounds, and you can have someone like not being able to sleep. I
Yeah.
think I think that was, I have to say, one of the most fun parts because as fun as it is making a movie, there's lots of stressful elements and lots of moving parts. But sound is just like crunchy and goopy and disgusting, and it's just you in a room with the images, and it adds so much. So, yeah, I had fun really going for it.
Yeah. I'm always curious. It's probably probably a question for the sound department, like finding the sounds. Because a lot of times they have like find an orange and they slice it, just weird things. And I always find that very interesting.
Yeah, and it's surprising because you get a piece of meat and you cut it with a knife and it doesn't sound like anything.
Right.
And then you get a piece of cardboard and you cut it with like a fork, and then you get the sound that you're looking for. It's not it's really imagination based, and you've got to test all the sounds, um, blood and goop and everything like that. Liquid pouring doesn't sound right. It's more like insects. So I did a campaign for a company called EE in the UK, a commercial campaign about sexist hate. And we basically had all these football women like cracking bones and like teeth being knocked out and everything. So that was before Grafted, and I had a really fun chance to really play with sort of the sound effects. And that's, I think, where I got really like into the idea of body horror and how powerful it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a documentary in its own, all about the sound effects, actually.
Mm.
Casting Joanna Sun as the lead, I assume that's a hard character to cast because of the character arc. So, yeah, how did you find her?
She lied on her audition papers to say she was
Well,
a
there you
year
go. That's a
old.
good message for all the kids out there.
She was a year, she was just, she hadn't turned, I think, 17 yet, and you need parental permission at 16.
Yeah.
But she was about to turn 17. I only learned this afterwards. When I found out and I'd already knew she was going to be the one, I was like, that was it. That is way, that, honestly, she has the X factor. And like in little old New Zealand, you're looking at a 17-year-old kid who's never done a feature film before, who's got to play such range and
Yeah.
such motion. And she was just it. Her parents, Chinese speaking, she lives this kind of expected sort of life of a girl from her generation, very studious, very well behaved, but she has this powerful energy that was just like so waiting to be released. And it was so much fun. Like the most horrifying scenes with her, she would do them and we'd all be like, and then she would laugh afterwards and be like, "Oh, that felt so good."
So perfect for the character, actually. Very much, very
Gosh.
similar.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so excited to see what she does after
Yeah.
this. Such a talent, like a natural talent, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, have you ever played festivals before? Because you had a successful, festival run, and since you weren't in the world of horror before, I'm just wondering, like, if you had any experience, playing festivals.
Yeah, so one of my docs, Carmelie, was very, very festival heavy. It was nominated for a BAFTA, longlisted for an Oscar and stuff. So I got to do lots of that, but very different when it's a short, and also it's a doc. It's a different kind of crowd.
Hmm.
There was nothing like going to the Chicago International Film Festival and watching Grafted at the Music Box. Like that was like highlight of my career. Like
Yeah, that's amazing.
being there with the audience, like in this ancient, beautiful cinema, that's been, used since what the 20s or earlier. Like it's just so cool. And again, it's festivals are just so wonderful because it's like an honest gathering of like movie lovers.
Yeah, everyone involved, if you're just there to watch films, if you're making the films on any level, that's what I always tell everybody. You should go if you want to be involved, if you just want to watch movies. Everyone is there for one common love, the love of movies.
Yeah, and actually, if you want to, if you want to make films as well, it's a great way to meet like-minded like people and find your people. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. So are you going to continue in the horror world?
I mean, absolutely. For me, it's really about what the story is, and the story comes first, genre after. But I think that obviously, like I said, I think there's heaps more to be done here, and I'm excited to see about like how it takes shape because I think that we're still even experimenting now. Like I think it's going to get even cooler.
Yeah, because the main character Wei, you're really invested in her. So whatever happens to her, her herself or whatever she becomes, like you're more invested than in the movie if you like her as a character.
Yeah, exactly.
Any inspiration for the story itself, like anything from real life? Not that you were, grafting, folks in school or anything, but
Well, it's a really interesting question. I mean, personally, I think we all know what it's like not to feel like you fit in.
Mhm.
I mean, at school, those school years with the assholes that, are everywhere in every generation.
Yeah.
Um, so I could definitely relate to that. I mean, on a personal level, I'm first generation New Zealander, so like I have never quite felt like I'm not sure how much I can take ownership of being a Kiwi. My Russian family are very, very different. And so I never quite knew how to like fit in. And then, yeah, I think that I've never tried to take anyone else's face, but I think like, I think that, as a woman, I think we've spent so much time trying to figure out how we're meant to look in the world. And that pisses me off. I think what a waste of time. Think of all the cool shit we could be doing. We're worrying about what other people thought of us. And so for me, like it was a really great way to kind of express that rage of like how much time has been taken from me and from other people, like trying to get some acceptance from people that don't even matter. They don't even exist. As in the movie, they're monsters themselves. They are sort of, they are victims of this system too. So yeah.
Yeah, my co-host Annabelle can't be here today. I'm really curious, which I think she'll love the movie. And I just wondering though, do female and male audiences look at the movie differently?
It's interesting because I've talked about the substance a little bit as well. And, there've been a few body horrors that have come out directed by women, but I think that universally, everyone knows what it's like to most people, I'd say, aside from psychopaths, possibly.
Yeah, you
But,
worry about the people who have no idea. Yeah.
yeah, most people have experienced not a feeling of not fitting in and wanting to be something that they're not. And I think at the core of it, that is non-gender specific.
Mhm.
I think that what is interesting is just, um, like women being able to like experience and express this kind of rage that hasn't had a space on the screen before.
Mhm.
Like to just go into the bloody gore and rage of being alive and the relationships that we have with our bodies. I think that's interesting. And I don't think that we've really seen that in the same kind of way before. But I do think that a good story, at its core, everyone should enjoy
You,
it.
often in horror movies, the female like seduces someone or something,
Right.
but this is a in Grafted. It's more honestly, she's very smart because she's a scientist, so it's a different character than you see in a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, and I think it's a difference between like hitting someone over the head with some moral gallantry that
Yeah,
you're like trying to say something about a woman's position in society. But the thing with storytelling is you're taking people on a journey, and most people have empathy, and when they have empathy, they can connect. So this whole thing about, I think you know, oh, you can only tell one kind of story, that you've experienced. I think that we know what people are trying to talk about there, but we've also got to realize like people's capacity for empathy and to understand. And so I think that probably people will take different things away, but isn't
yeah,
that the same with cinema anyway? Like
yeah,
everyone
yeah. Art itself, I
do.
think. Yeah, and I want
Mm,
people to know, horror fans like it's a great horror movie on its own. Regardless of what you think of everything else, it plays as a great horror movie and a great story. I really liked it all around. So. And
thank you.
I have to ask, Becky the dog, is this your dog or is this a friend's dog?
No, I mean, it was mental to add a dog in, but I was like, we need a chihuahua. I mean, like, this makes it, not my dog. I'll tell you what, it is a whole nother level of complexity directing an already complicated scene, then having to think about the exact place you want this dog and what you want it to do. I'll definitely think about that next time I have an animal in a film.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that, and also, she was a he, so
Oh,
we,
okay.
we had to hide that because we were like,
Yeah.
gotta be a kill dog, but we're gonna
Yeah.
like
That's its
shoot him
own
out.
body horror, maybe in its
It's
own right. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe he needs some therapy after that.
All right, well, Grafted, I thought was great, honestly. And so check it out on Shudder when it's on Shudder. And where can people follow you to see what you're up to?
Oh yeah, come visit me on Instagram and say hi. I'm at it's Sasha Sasha Rainbow. That's me. It's Sasha Rainbow.
All right, well, I will follow you.
Awesome. I'll follow you back.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
Great
All right.
chatting.
Yeah, you as well. Really love the movie.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Take
Yep.
care. Oops.
Bye.